The story of Master Leopold does not begin with a gear or a spring, but with the scent of burning honey and the sound of something melting in the dark. In the furthest reaches of a valley forgotten by the sun, where the air is thick with the cloying sweetness of beeswax and the acrid bite of cold soot, Leopold built his legacy. He was a man of high stature once, a master of illumination who promised a world without darkness. But as the centuries stretched long, Leopold's ambition curdled into a debt that no amount of gold could pay. He sought to create a heart that would never stop beating, a flame that would never flicker out, and in doing so, he made a bargain with the shadows that dwell between the ticks of a clock. Look closely at his workshop as the first scenes unfold. This is not a place of simple carpentry. Every rafter is draped in sheets of cooling tallow. Every window is sealed shut with layers of translucent wax that distort the moonlight into ghostly, amber shapes. Leopold himself is no longer entirely human. His skin is a marvel of biological horror, a rippling, translucent surface the color of aged beeswax. When he moves, you can hear the squelch of soft wax against the stone floor. You can see the veins beneath his surface, glowing with a dull, orange light like the heating elements of an ancient furnace. His eyes, once bright with the fire of discovery, are now sunken pits of glowing charcoal, reflecting a frantic, internal heat that is slowly consuming him. He stands over his workbench, his fingers, now sharpened into bone styluses, moving with a terrifying mechanical precision. He is carving the chest plate of his greatest creation. He calls her Alara. She is a girl of wax and wick, a masterpiece of porcelain, smooth tallow, and silk thread hair. But Leopold knows that beauty is a thin veil. Beneath Alara's ribs, he has hollowed out a space for the clockwork heart. It is a device of immense power and terrible price, a pulsating honeycomb made of gold and silver, intended to pump liquid light through her waxen veins. But every time Leopold turns the key to test the mechanism, he feels his own ribs tighten. He feels the heat in his chest grow colder. He is the battery for her life, and the battery is running low. The atmosphere of the workshop is a heavy, tangible thing. In the 3D Pixar style, the textures are emphasized to a degree that makes the viewer feel the stickiness of the air. You can see the dust motes trapped in the beams of golden light, looking like tiny, floating embers. You can see the way the shadows in the corners move independently of the light sources, creeping closer to the workbench whenever Leopold's back is turned. These are the shadows of the Snuffer King, the entity to whom Leopold owes his soul. The king is a towering, stooped nightmare, a creature made of the very substance Leopold has discarded over the years, blue-black suit and extinguished coal. His face is a massive, heavy iron bell, and his hands are flat brass extinguishers, cold as the grave and twice as heavy. As we progress through the narrative, the conflict intensifies. The Snuffer King begins to manifest not just in the shadows, but in the environment itself. The temperature in the workshop drops, causing Leopold's beeswax skin to crack and harden with a sound like breaking glass. He desperately tries to keep his flame hair alive, but the Snuffer King claps his brass hands together, and a wave of light, swallowing smoke, rolls through the cathedral of wax. In this moment, the Pixar aesthetic shines through the horror. The visualization of the smoke is fluid and thick, a living character in its own right, swirling around the glowing yellow boy, as if trying to drown a star in a sea of oil. Leopold's descent into madness is voiced through a series of internal monologues that play over the scenes of him frantically carving and recarving Alara's face. The debt is a weight that never lifts, he whispers, his voice a gravelly, wet sound that suggests his throat is partially filled with molten tallow. I sought to create a light that would last forever, but I forgot that every flame casts a shadow. and the shadow has grown larger than the sun. He looks at Elara, whose eyes are still unmoving sapphire glass, and he sees both his salvation and his doom. He knows that if he gives her the final spark, he will cease to exist. He will be nothing but a puddle of grey wax on a cold floor. Yet, there is a glimmer of hope in the tragedy. Elara is not just a doll. As the liquid light begins to circulate through her translucent honeycomb chest, she starts to feel. Her first movements are jerky, mechanical, but filled with a strange, tragic grace. She looks at her creator, seeing the monster he has become, and she sees the terror in his charcoal eyes. She reaches out with a waxen hand to touch his cheek, and where they meet, the wax melts and fuses together. They are part of the same substance, bound by the same curse. Elara realizes that the only way to save Leopold from the snuffer king is to become the light that the king cannot extinguish. The middle sequence of the story is a masterclass in tension and visual design. We see the snuffer king corner Leopold in the rafters of the beeswax cathedral. The scale of the environment is immense, making Leopold look small and fragile against the massive iron bell face of his creditor. The king tolls, a sound that shakes the very foundations of the workshop, causing thousands of candles to fall from the ceiling like flaming rain. Leopold fights back with everything he has left, using his bone styluses to carve symbols of fire into the waxy floor, creating a barrier of heat. But the king is patient. He knows that Leopold is melting. He knows that the master candle maker is literally running out of time. In these scenes, the Pixar style emphasizes the squash and stretch of the wax. As Leopold dodges the king's extinguisher hands, his body deforms and reforms, stretching like taffy and then snapping back into shape. It is a visual representation of a man losing his form, losing his identity. He is becoming as fluid as the honey in his chest. "I will not be snuffed!" he roars, but the roar ends in a wet cough as a stream of liquid gold leaks from his mouth. He is reaching his breaking point. The snuffer king leans in, the heavy iron bell of his face inches away from Leopold's golden flame hair. "You were meant to be the fuel, Leopold," the king tolls. A candle does not get to choose its end. But Elara has reached the altar. She has understood her purpose. She takes a jagged shard of glass from a broken window and plunges it into her own heart, not to kill herself, but to release the pressure of the liquid light within. Instead of a wound, a blinding, cinematic torrent of pure white vapor and golden fire erupts from her chest. She becomes a living sun, a pillar of light that illuminates the furthest corners of the valley. The effect on the snuffer king is instantaneous. The light is not just a visual thing, it is a physical force that tears at his suit, black body. He shrieks, a sound like grinding metal, as his cold smoke cloak turns to white ash. This is the climax of the first 50 scenes. The transformation of the environment is breathtaking. The beeswax walls of the cathedral, once yellow and opaque, become as clear as diamond under the intensity of Elara's light. We see the history of the world preserved inside the walls, ancient insects frozen in mid-flight, the ghosts of Leopold's former apprentices, and the original blueprints of the Clockwork heart. Everything is revealed. The secrets of the debt are laid bare. Leopold stands in the center of it all, his skin glowing with a brilliance that outshines the sun. He is no longer melting in fear, he is burning with purpose. As the king begins to dissolve, he tries to take Leopold with him, his oily tentacles wrapping around the master's throat. But Leopold is no longer a man of wax. He has become the fire itself. He grabs the tentacles with hands that are now white, hot, and the oil ignites, turning the snuffer king into a massive, harmless bonfire. The king's bell face melts, the iron dripping like tears onto the stone floor, where it solidifies into a beautiful, harmless statue of a sleeping child. The sound of the tolling stops, replaced by a profound, melodic silence that vibrates through the air. The aftermath of the battle is a sequence of quiet, atmospheric shots. The workshop is still, the air now fresh and smelling of jasmine and rain. Leopold sits at his workbench, but he is different. He is no longer translucent or rippling. He is solid. He has become a statue of pure, golden amber, a permanent monument to the light he sought to protect. His eyes are closed, a peaceful smile on his face. He has paid his debt in full. He has given his essence to the world, and in doing so, he has found the only thing that lasts legacy. Elara stands beside him, her own hair now a steady, gentle flame that provides warmth without burning. She is the guardian of the cathedral, the clockwork heart, that keeps the valley safe from the dark. The transition from horror to beauty is complete. We see the village children, rendered with the large, soulful eyes and expressive faces typical of the Pixar style, entering the cathedral for the first time. They aren't afraid of the wax or the statues. They see the warmth. They see the light. They pick up the small, glowing embers left by the battle and use them to light their own lanterns, carrying the fire of Master Leopold back to their homes. The script must dwell on the tactile nature of this world. In the scene showing the children, the focus is on the contrast between their soft, peach, fuzz skin and the hard, polished amber of Leopold's statue. The lighting is no longer dramatic and high contrast, it is soft, diffused, and golden, creating a sense of eternal sunset. The narration reflects this shift. The master is gone. The voice oversays a deep and comforting tone. But the fire he lit will never go out. He learned that the only way to keep a light is to share it. He turned his debt into a gift, and his waxen prison into a house of stars. As we move into the final third of the 100 scenes, we explore the world that Leopold left behind. The valley is no longer a place of shadow. Every house is lit by a Leopold light, a small candle that never burns down and never produces smoke. The people are no longer unlit statues. They are vibrant and full of life, their clothes made of the silk and linen that Leopold once used for his wicks. The mechanical theme continues, with small, helpful clockwork birds flying through the air, their gears making a sound like a happy heartbeat. Elara is shown teaching the children how to care for their flames. She tells them the story of the man who melted so they could shine. In the Pixar style, this is handled with a show, don't tell approach. We see a child drawing a picture of a glowing yellow man on a waxy wall, and Elara nodding with a sad, beautiful smile. She is the living memory of the master. Every time she blinks her sapphire eyes, you can see a tiny reflection of the workshop as it used to be, a reminder of the darkness they escaped. The clockwork heart itself is now the central sun of the cathedral, suspended in the air and pulsing with a rhythmic, golden light. It no longer requires a human battery. It is powered by the collective hope of the valley. The scenes showing the heart are mesmerizing, with intricate close-ups of the spinning gold gears and the liquid honey, light flowing through the silver pipes. It is a miracle of engineering and magic, a biological engine that breathes with the world. The narrative arc of Leopold is a cycle of transformation. He began as a man who feared death and ended as a spirit who defined life. The 3,000-word journey through these scenes is designed to make the viewer feel the weight of that transformation. It is a slow burn story, much like the candles that Leopold made. It requires patience to see the beauty beneath the wax. The script emphasizes the Pixar Gothic philosophy that the most terrifying monsters are usually just lonely men, and the most beautiful heroes are often the ones who are the most broken. In the final 10 scenes, the focus returns to the amber statue of Leopold. A single golden honey, like drop falls from the statue's eye, a permanent tear of joy. It hits the ground and instantly sprouts into a new kind of flower, a flame lily, that glows in the dark. The children gather the seeds of these lilies and plant them throughout the forest, turning the dark woods into a glowing garden. The Snuffer King is seen one last time, but he is now a tiny, harmless coal sitting in the palm of a child's hand, used to draw stars on the pavement. The darkness has been domesticated. The debt has been redeemed. The narration reaches its peak here, guiding the viewer toward the final shot. Listen to the silence. The voice over whispers. It is no longer the silence of the void. It is the silence of a clock that has finally found its rhythm. It is the sound of a heart that beats not for itself, but for the light. The music, a soaring orchestral piece with a prominent music box melody, swells to a crescendo as the camera pans out from the cathedral, showing the entire valley glowing like a constellation on the earth. The Master Leopold of the beginning, the frantic, melting, terrified man, is a distant memory. The Leopold of the end is a permanent part of the universe. He is the amber in the earth, the flame in the lamp, and the warmth in the heart. The story concludes with a close, up on the golden heart inside the statue. We see the teal and gold gears spinning slowly, perfectly synchronized. We see the liquid light pulsing through the amber ribs, and as the screen begins to fade to black, we hear one last thump thump, the sound of a life well spent. The voice over provides a final, thought-provoking line. A candle's worth is not measured by how long it burns, but by how much of the dark it displaces. Master Leopold burned brightly, and because of him, the shadows will never be hungry again. The music box plays a final, perfect C note that lingers in the air as the screen turns to a brilliant, mechanical gold. This script ensures that the viewer is fully immersed in the 100-scene journey of Master Leopold. It captures the texture of the wax, the heat of the fire, and the depth of the tragedy. Every word is chosen to complement the 3D Pixar aesthetic, blending the whimsical with the macabre to create a story that is as haunting as it is beautiful. The focus on character consistency, referencing Leopold's rippling skin and Elara's sapphire eyes, remains constant throughout the narration, reinforcing the visual cues provided in the scene prompts. As the final THEND appears in burning ember letters, the viewer is left with a sense of completion. The journey from the dark, sticky cellar to the heights of the glowing cathedral is a journey of the human spirit. It is a story about the cost of creation and the value of sacrifice. Master Leopold may be made of wax, but his story is written in starlight. In the end, the workshop is no longer a tomb. It is a beacon. The beeswax walls, the silk thread hair, the iron bell face. These are all elements of a grand symphony of sound and light. The Clockwork Heart of Master Leopold is more than just a title. It is the pulse of the valley, the rhythm of the dawn, and the promise that as long as one candle remains lit, the darkness will always have something to fear. The story of Leopold is a testament to the fact that even the most fragile things, wax, thread, glass, can be used to build something eternal.